Okay, so now we usually have the time to answer questions, but, there is a question basket. I thought it had been disappeared. No, it's there. Oh my goodness. Oh, so many questions. See what happens. You know, being a monk, your life is pretty boring. So it's interesting to see what we have in the question box. The most exciting time of my life. Here we go. Are you ready? Really ready? The first question. I wish I had the nerve to do that. Dear Ajahn Brahm, this is my first time here at Jhana Grove. Thank you so much for showing your pearls of wisdom. Pearls of wisdom, because as monks we're not supposed to have expensive things like jewelry. Anyway, my question is, to get the most out of meditation, is it necessary to adhere to at least the 5 precepts? Many thanks. Yes. Sometimes people feel 5 precepts, it's a bit hard. Ajahn Brahm, can we not just, make some very calm, peaceful, gentle, kind of a generous keeping of the 5 precepts? They ask me, can we soften them? And they ask me, keep on, well, just a little bit of breaking the rules. It's not going to hurt you that much, is it? And then I tell them, oh, okay. Just a little bit of killing, a little bit of robbery, a little bit of adultery, just a little bit of lying. You know what the people really mean? A lot of times in Australia they say, can we have a little bit of alcohol? Just a little bit. That's what the one they really mean. And so I said, no, come on, it's nice to be free of all of that. So you are totally, have the 5 precepts, and you feel so safe, so peaceful. Look, it's something, I don't know, but you get all people just asking all sorts of questions about all sorts of things. And a lot of times, it's almost every other day, somebody asks me about black magic. Have you seen black magic before? I have. Somebody gave me black magic. It's a box of chocolates. Sorry. So I gave it to somebody else. But a lot of times, there are serious black magic. I've only seen it a couple of times in my 51 years as a monk. And one of those cases, there was one of the disciples who used to go to Wat Bananachar years ago. She was like a young lady, very devoted, very good girl, but then she apparently was washing her face in the morning, and she looked in the mirror, and this is not a joke, this is a true story. I've got to say it's not a joke because I do tell quite a few jokes. But anyway, she was washing her face in the mirror in the morning, and the face she saw in the mirror wasn't her face. It was this monster. And that really shocked her. But she always would go to Wat Bananachar, that was her monastery. So she told the monks there. By this time I'd already come to Australia, so this was the story I got from the other monks who were over in Wat Bananachar. She always would go there in the mornings, and on the moon days, and support it. She was a very good girl. She didn't really have any boyfriends or anything. And she told the monks, and we arranged to go to her house to do a ceremony to see what would happen. And apparently when they went there to her house in a nearby village to do the ceremony, one of the other ladies in the village fainted. And when she came to, she was speaking in a strange voice. And there was enough senior people in the room. There was one of the old monks there. He was a very good monk. His name was Ajahn Brahm, one of Ajahn Chah's wisest disciples as a monk. And to give you an idea of his wisdom, that when he came to visit Bodhinyana Monastery years ago, some of the Thai ladies said, "Can you have a word with these Western monks?" Me included. Because we're not sort of respecting traditions. If ever you go to Bodhinyana Monastery Hall, you see the big Buddha statue there is facing northwest, mostly west, but a bit north as well. And according to tradition, the Buddha statues are supposed to be facing east. Have you heard that? In Sri Lanka, which way is the Buddha statue supposed to face? So the Thai ladies complained. And Ajahn Brahm said, "How long has that Buddha statue been facing that way?" And they said, "Well, over a year." And Ajahn Brahm said, "Well, if the Buddha didn't like it, he would have turned around by now." That was a brilliant answer. But anyway, this was the same senior monk who went to this house to fix up this problem this lady had. So one of the ladies went into a trance, and he questioned. And he said, "Are you that demon?" He said, "Yes." And he'd been hired to kill that girl because there was one person who liked her very much in the city, and if she wouldn't marry him, she would marry no one. So he paid a lot of money, hired this guy who kind of ran this spirit trade, and was ordered the demon to kill her. And the demon said he'd been trying for 2 or 3 years and hadn't got close. And that's when the monk said, "Look, you're wasting your time. This lady, she keeps 5 precepts and 8 precepts on the moon days. She's a really good girl." And he was saying, this is what many people know, that such a person cannot be killed by spirits or demons or anything. The precepts have got more power than other people think. And even the demon admitted that. He said, "No, I don't know why, but I haven't been able to kill her. But the rule is, if I can't kill her, I have to die myself." And Ajahn Brahm said, "It's better that you die, that you kill somebody else. You're not going to be able to do it." So Ajahn Brahm said, "Well, I'll give you 5 precepts." And the 5 precepts, you take those 5 precepts, you will die, but you get a much better rebirth. So you don't have to go through this pain and torture again. And the demon agreed. So Ajahn Brahm gave it 5 precepts. Then the woman who was possessed by this demon temporarily just fainted again. And when she came to, she couldn't remember anything what had happened. And that was the end of the story. No more problem. That's one of the reasons why, if anybody say they got suddenly sick or they've had a series of bad luck, they say that, "Why? Can you help?" And usually gives them 5 precepts. And make sure you keep them. They're not that hard to break. They're not rather hard to keep. So does that kind of answer some of those questions? They're very, very, very rare. But nevertheless, every now and again there are cases. which happen. So 5 precepts keeps you really, really safe. And I mean that. I'm not just trying to praise 5 precepts just because I'm a monk. You've just seen it over so many years. And sometimes, though, people always try to get away with the 5 precepts, especially the alcohol one. There was this one guy, he was Australian, and he said he really wanted, to keep the 5 precepts, but in this world you have difficulties. Once they started keeping the 5 precepts, he was going to a party reception for his business, and somebody came with the alcoholic drinks, only some wine or something, and they asked him, have a drink. He said, no, I'm sorry, I can't accept any drink. I've kept 5 precepts now, I'm not allowed to have any alcohol. I'm a Buddhist. And the guy serving the alcohol said, you're a Buddhist, that's wonderful. I know a lot about Buddhism. Buddhism is about letting go. Come on, let go, have a drink. So he said, that one didn't work. So he said, he found a different way of keeping his 5 precepts. The next time he went to one of these receptions for business and they were serving alcohol, they asked him, do you want a drink? And he said, no, doctor's orders. It's amazing how many people respect that in Australia. Oh, doctor's orders, okay, I'll bring some orange juice for you. So he had his orange juice instead. And when he told me that, I said, look, that is not a really good idea. You're keeping one precept by breaking another. You're lying. You're healthy. It can't be doctor's orders. And that's when he looked at me. He beat me. He said, Ajahn Brahm, I expected better of you. It is doctor's orders. Many times in the suttas, the Buddha called himself like a doctor. It's Dr. Buddha's orders. So I said, okay, very good. So you can always do that. Especially in places like, in the West, like Australia. You say it's the Buddha's orders, they won't listen to it. Say doctor's orders, say, oh yes, okay, fair enough. So that's ways you can actually keep your precepts. Oh, yeah. Next question. I'm curious. Why? What they say, the curiosity killed the cat. There's a lady here called Cat. Where is she? Where's she gone? She's over there. So please don't be curious. Why is Jhana and Nimitta not mentioned in Mahayana, even though they practice samatha as well? One of the reasons is because the job of Mahayana is not to create you as an arahat, an enlightened being, but as a bodhisattva. And bodhisattva, if you get some nimittas and jhanas, you're going to become an arahat, and you're out of here. And you get these amazing insights once you get enough jhanas and get the powerful mind. Sometimes people say, well, why don't you just make a decision? You're enlightened and carry on living or getting reborn again. The point is you can't. It's not like a rule. It's just like nature. Once you have the insight into the nature of existence, the idea of getting reborn is just anathema to you. You can't do it. There's no reason to anymore. And there's no force to. You're going to be out of here in a few lifetimes and you can't make any changes at all. One of the important parts of reasons for this is you always feel, before you're a stream winner, that your will is under your control, that you have choice. And this is one of the incredible insights which you have. The choice is not yours. It's an automatic process. You might choose you want to get a few more rebirths, but it can't be done. You're out of control. That which you always thought was your choice is not. This is one reason why some of the insights you get from this meditation it really sort of change the way you understand how you work. And especially this thing we call will. Did you decide to come on this retreat? No, you did not. All the causes and conditions compelled you to come here. That's why you're here. That may sound strange, but I will stand by that. You don't realize, you think that you are in control of your will. If you were, then there'll be a self in control of this body and mind. And after a while, when you meditate, first of all, you see the thing we call will vanish and disappear. That's in the second jhana. The will is no longer there. It comes back when you come out of that jhana. But when it disappears, the reason why we encourage it to disappear for a little while, only when it disappears can you understand what it was. This is a story which I've told many times of the tadpole and the frog. I told it so many times that even for German-speaking Buddhists, I know the word for tadpole is a kohlkopper. I probably pronounced it terribly, but how would you pronounce it?
Kaulquappe.
There we go, that's close enough. Once upon a time there was a little tadpole happily living in a pond in a monastery. And as little tadpole was growing older, he was always keen on knowledge. He went to the little school in the lake, and she worked really hard. She passed all her exams and even went to university in the lake. It was a big lake. And sometimes, because it was in a monastery, sometimes they had these monks, senior monks who were Abhidharma experts, and they would discuss by the shores of the lake about the Abhidharma of what will is. So this little tadpole, she was learning everything about water. She became a professor of water, and she wrote books about water. But then one day, she was happily just swimming in the lake where she lived, and she noticed she was growing appendages. Her body was changing. She was growing little arms and legs. She was transforming into a frog. And one day, little tadpole, now a frog, she didn't really know what she was doing, but she jumped out of the lake, and she was standing on dry land. That's the first time she'd ever got out of the lake. And for the first time in her life, she could understand what water was. How can a fish understand what water is? It doesn't matter if it reads all the books and studies. You have to have the experience of water vanishing. And they have an idea, a possibility of understanding the nature of water. It's the same with your will. When that vanishes, you've got a chance of understanding what will is. And you will find that what you thought was will, that was under your control, is not at all. It's caused and conditioned. If any of you want to ever read about dependent origination or dependent cessation, they go together, you'll understand just how your will is not yours. It's caused and conditioned. And after a while you realize that when you get to a certain stage of meditation and insight, you can't be reborn again. And if you do any jhanas and get the insight which comes naturally, you can't be a bodhisattva. You're out of here, whether you like it or not. If you don't agree with that, tomorrow, some more questions. You know, I tell a lot of people that every time you sit here and ask a question, go to the interviews or listen to one of the Dharma talks, I'm brainwashing you. I'm being true, honest. I was brainwashed by Ajahn Brahm. Thank you for brainwashing me. Thank you for actually showing me all those delusions you could wash away and see a much more powerful truth. You can always ask questions, but then you're hearing information which hopefully you've never really heard before, which changes the way you look at life. Don't we always tell you to let go? Let it be. Not control it. Not use your willpower. That's one of the reasons I said at the beginning of this retreat, the anapanasati. You know it's not anapanasati, but anapanasati when you try and control it. When you become a control freak, not a kindness freak. Be kind to your body. Be kind to your mind. You still have to live with your body and with your mind for many more years. So be kind, be gentle to it, and you're following the Buddha's instructions. Letting go, not doing. Relax to the max. You're really quiet now. You're paying attention, you're not bored. So my brainwashing is working. With Metta Ajahn, could you please explain how you get the nimitta when doing anapana meditation? May you attain supreme bliss of nibbana in this life. No, I'm not going to do what anybody says. Thank you for that kind wish. How nimitta arises? What are nimitta? Nimitta is like it's a sign, a representation. And this is especially the sign, the representation of your mind. You know what your mind is? Even those people doing satipatthana training, vipassana training, aren't you supposed to understand your mind? What is it? Who can tell me? The mind is a fascinating thing to experience. That's why your body can be sick and your mind can leave that body and go to places it hasn't been before, actually just out of the body experiences. When you die, you've died before, you just don't remember it. Or why don't you remember your previous lives? A lot of times because we're scared. All of those psychic powers I've mentioned, why is it they make people afraid? Because it's a part of life we're too afraid to really explore and understand. It's nice reading about them in books, but actually seeing them happen right in front of you, that's weird. It's too challenging. And I think I did tell the story of the flower pot experiment. I said it this afternoon at lunchtime. I said it here as well, didn't I? Why is it that professional scientists, they couldn't see a flower pot which actually did lift up off the table? It had a cause, a scientific cause for it, but they refused to admit they saw it because it was too challenging for them. And that was a real vision. The thing actually did lift up off the table, had photographs, videos of it, but they refused to admit it because that was too challenging. They'd have to rethink too much of their framework of how they understood existence. Way too challenging. That's one of the reasons why, when you come here, if I'm doing my job properly, you get challenged. But the nice side is you also bliss out. It's really nice. You have a lot of happiness. You realize just seeing, the truth of the world is not scary after all. It's so blissful and happy for you. You feel so free. When you realize that everything is conditioned, it's brainwashed, it's not your will, what would happen? One of my other stories, I'm going through all my key stories, this particular story, it's an original Ajahn Brahm story, and when it's in it's in the Mindfulness, Bliss and Beyond book, but then even the editors in the US who were printing that book, they wanted to take it out. They said, this is nonsense. And I said, no way, this is one of the best stories in the book, about the driverless bus. And this was a long time when I wrote this story, before Google and others came up with the idea of a driverless car. And I said, this is a metaphor for your life. Well, isn't it like you're sitting in a car or a bus with a driver, and sometimes you go through this beautiful scenery, like New Zealand. Okay, you can smile, come praising your country. It is a nice country. And you can see beautiful, or even better, even Albany. You see beautiful scenery. And what do? You tell your bus driver, whose name is Mr. Will. You tell your bus driver, slow down, park. You want to enjoy the pleasant moments of your life. And what does your bus driver usually do? Slams down his foot on the accelerator and you speed out way too fast. And other times of your life, you're going through the nuclear waste dumps of life. You really look out the window and it's disgusting, it's really awful to see. And what do you tell your bus driver? Speed out of here. The times when you're having sicknesses or other people are being sick and things are going wrong in your life, or you try and get an airline ticket to go to Singapore to see your favourite band and they can't get a seat. Renee. And then, so what happens? You tell your bus driver, get out of here quick. It's unpleasant. And your bus driver, he doesn't just slow down, he parks. Have you ever noticed that sometimes in life, the unpleasant moments last too long? And the pleasant moments, they fly by too quickly. And after a few years of life, you realize it's your bus driver's fault. You give good instructions, but your bus driver always messes up. So to solve that problem, you've got to find where this bus driver, your will, sits. And eventually you find the bus driver's seat. And you walk up there. That's what happens in deep meditation. You can find the seat of your will. And you go right up there. And you want to sort of give your bus driver a piece of your mind. Because you do need peace to be able to get there. And that's where you get the insight, the shock. It's not what you expected. You find the bus driver's seat is empty. There's no one there. It's a driverless bus, an automatic. So what next do? you turn around, you go back to your seat where you usually sit down. And from that moment on, you stop complaining. You understand what the will is and you don't follow it anymore. Nice things, bad things. Part of life. Welcome to the human condition. You don't complain. That's what happens when you let go of the will. You let things be. Now there's one of these Zen monks, I always remember his story. And then sometimes, when I first read that, I said, Ajahn Brahm, are you up to doing something like that? At the time, certainly no, even though I don't think I can. Because what happened to him, he was just living up in the mountain above a village. And he was a very good monk, just meditating, living very simply. And then one of the ladies in the village, she was a young lady, she had a boyfriend in the village, and the boyfriend made her pregnant. And she realized that was a big sort of no-no in that village. So she tried to hide it as best she could, but you can't hide that for too long. And when the father found out, he was very embarrassed. And he forced it out of her. Who's responsible for that? Now you're pregnant, who did it? And she didn't want to blame her boyfriend. She was in love with him. So instead she said, it was that old monk. He's the one who did it. And the father was really upset. Had a village meeting, and all the villagers, they charged up to where the monk lived, and they really scolded him. You're a bad monk, you're a terrible monk. They could not punish him because they still respected the fact there are monks. And so, the next thing they did is when the baby was born, a little girl, they took that baby up to the monk. So you're the father, you look after it. And that's what I think. I don't think I could do that. I'm a monk, I don't know how to look after a baby. But this monk, he looked after it. Only for a couple of months. And in that time, the mother, she missed her kid. And so that's when she told her father, look, I'm really terribly sorry. It was a bad thing I did, two bad things. Having that kid and also blaming the monk, who was totally innocent. So I'm terribly sorry, I want my baby back. I want to say sorry to the monk. So they had a big meeting in the village, and they all went up to see that monk. And they told the monk, we're so sorry. We accused you of something you never did. And you only sort of looked after that baby out of compassion. So can we have the baby back now? And I said, okay. So they took the baby back again. And I like that story. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do? Have you? And that's a poor monk was accused of making this woman pregnant, and he would not try and defend himself. He would just also and accepted it, and then gave it back again afterwards. That's a fascinating story. So that's when you don't need to control things. And he did know how to look after a kid. I don't know how, just basic compassion. And apparently that was a real story. So that's like driverless buses. You never know what's going to happen next. But please, you can't do that to me now. Because that was many hundreds of years ago. Now we have paternity tests. I can prove it. Okay. Is that okay, the answer? Okay. With another couple of stories. It's my first time to be here, and I'm so excited. Thank you. I wonder how long the excitement will occur, and when you start getting scared. I'm saying that because I remember getting scared when I started meditating. The reason you got scared, you're sitting here and you're doing the meditation properly and things start to vanish. I still remember just teaching sort of like a lunchtime meditation for executives in Singapore. And a couple of them understood what to do and they did it, and they complained. I said, I was sitting there meditating, my hands vanished. What are you doing, Ajahn Brahm? I said, but that happens, the whole body vanishes, disappears. Don't be scared about it. You're totally safe, in fact more safe than before. And so eventually you had to convince them, but there is some fear comes up, and sometime I know this monk, he was meditating, getting really still, many things were vanishing, and then it's like the last thing you had to let go of was your control. And that's a very scary thing, to let go of control. Eventually you trust this place and all the people, especially the monks and nuns here, so much you've got nothing to lose at all. But then you see all this beautiful bliss right in front of you. Should I go for the bliss or should I go for safety? And after a while, bliss or safety? Bliss or what the hell? And you go for it. The bliss is too powerful. The safety is it's a false fear. But when you go to places you've never been before and see things which are incredibly beautiful and powerful insights, still it is scary. But eventually you've got no choice. You just go for it. Anyway, I'm so excited. Okay, begin with. My questions. Wondering why Sangha do not give us the 8 precepts for the retreat. You don't give the precepts, you take them. It's not a gift from me to you. The inspiration is a gift, but actually taking them and keeping them is actually your decision. Look, when I was a lay person, I was a bit rebellious, but intelligent. And I remember when I first heard about the 5 precepts, I didn't know what they were. I was going to this Thai temple, Wat Buddha Badip, in London, in East Sheen. Beautiful place, right next to Richmond Park. And as one of the monks asked me one day, you've been coming here many weeks, it's about time you took the 5 precepts. And I wasn't being arrogant. I just asked him, what are the 5 precepts you want me to take? He said, number 1, not killing any animals at all. He said, I was a vegetarian at that time, strict vegetarian. I gave my mother a really hard time. Every time she made her dinner, I would take the frying pan or whatever it was and scrub it about 3 or 4 times before I would put my veggie burger or whatever it was in there. And I also, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, you can tell me afterwards, that there was one girl, she invited me to dinner when I was at Cambridge. So I went to her place, beautiful little place, for dinner one evening. She'd forgotten I was a vegetarian. She spent all this time and money making me a delicious meal, but it had meat in it. So I said, no, I'm not eating it. And I walked out. And that was the end of that relationship. You tell me, was that good or bad? At least, she was quite pretty, so I'm glad I didn't sort of take it any further, so I could become a monk. But I felt guilty afterwards. I must admit, I think the right response would have been to eat that meal and tell her afterwards. She put so much effort into trying to make something delicious, and I just walked out. Nasty thing to do. So, anyway, that's, so I was, and that's stealing? After all, you couldn't do that. Even when on the London transport buses, sometimes they were so busy they didn't take your fare. So I would always go up to them afterwards and give it to them. I said, no, you didn't ask my fare, here it is. I couldn't stand myself if I didn't pay my fare. Just could not steal. And then the sexual misconduct, I couldn't do that. And having 2 girlfriends was really expensive. And I was poor. One was enough. So that's the easy one to keep. And lying. Why do you want to lie? I've got nothing to hide. And you tell the truth to people. And lastly, alcohol. When I was young, I would drink, but honestly, I'm going to tell this story again. The last alcohol I ever drank was what they called the Scholars' Dinner in Cambridge. That was my college was Emmanuel College. They had a Nobel Prize winner there. It was one of the chemistry. He was the master. And then lots of actually very powerful brains were studying there. And because, I was one of the scholars there, I couldn't afford to go there myself. My father already died, and so my mother was just a secretary living in a council flat. We didn't have money, so it was all done by scholarships. So because of that, you were invited to the scholars' dinner, and they said you can't miss this. A 9-course meal. In England, okay, this is not China, when you have Hong Kong or Singapore, where 9-course meals are common. And served by butlers. The real thing, in tails and just bow ties and stuff. Oh, I should have said, before the dinner, we had drinks up in the gallery built by Sir Christopher Wren. Again, served by butlers. And I was studying maths and science. And with one of my friends, we saw this huge table, and the butlers were going around in a clockwise direction. And I thought, if myself and my friend go around in an anti-clockwise direction at the same speed, we would meet those butlers twice on every circuit and get twice as much sherry or port, whatever it was. And that's what we did, stupid students. And then 9-course meal, and there's a butler just hovering over you. And every time your class went less than half, it was filled up again, almost immediately. And then, after the 9-course meal with all that alcohol, then we went to the old library. And there, we were sitting around a huge table, had 3 glasses. And it didn't have cigarettes there, cigars. It was incredibly posh. And 3 big glasses, one for sherry, one for port, one for Madeira, always kept full. And then, not finished yet, they had one of the college heirlooms, this goblet. And the goblet was, I don't know, silver or gold, with lots of jewelry. It would have been worth a fortune. It was like an heirloom, which was, worth a fortune. And that was filled to the brim. By this time, I don't know whether it was port or Madeira or whatever they filled it with. It was filled right to the top, and every person, including the Nobel laureates, had to drain it, the whole lot, and then say a toast afterwards in Latin. That was bizarre. you got so inebriated. I don't know how I ever found my way back to my room in the college. But I remember waking up in the morning, and please, this is real, disgusted because a big pile of vomit on my pillow in front of my nose. Many people die of that. They vomit in their sleep and they choke. I never died, but any longing for alcohol died. No way I was going to drink anything anymore. And other people would say, "Oh, it was a great night last night." What do you mean? I had a terrible hangover. I felt terrible all day. And that was the last alcohol I ever drank. I can't see the point in it anymore. You took it to the extremes. And it was stupid. And the fact that all these big professor, Nobel laureates, were doing this in a supposed to be a smart university like Cambridge made absolutely no sense to me. So I said, okay, that's it, no more. And all that food, I mean, that's really high quality food, 9 courses. And, I don't know those people, those butlers and the cooks, they spent so much time and money creating that feast. And it all ended up on my pillow. I really felt disgusted. That's why I don't mind saying that again and again to you. And that was, the last alcoholic drink I ever did. So by that time, 5 precepts were natural. So when I went over to the Thai temple, I said, "Do you want to take the 5 precepts?" So I've been keeping them for quite a few years now. You don't take them, you keep them. So find out what those precepts are, which you're keeping anyway. They make life so much more peaceful and happy and safe. And you can enjoy yourself. So that's what I found. That's why I don't give them to you. I want you to take them and keep them. Anyway, oh my goodness, these are good questions. Number 2, this morning Ajahn said that stillness is important. Much more than that. It's vital, it's crucial, it's what happens. And that's what really you get blissed out from. Every time you have fun and joy in the meditation, it's always because of that stillness. Things disappear, the mind becomes lighter, more energy in the mind. And you really, really, really bliss out. Sometimes people don't understand until they have the experience of how much fun, how much joy, how much bliss is a much better word, you get in meditation. You really are just, that's why you don't want to come out. Even lunch. I mean, the cooks here, people who bring food, they're pretty great cooks. They really put extra effort in to make sure you get the very best. But nevertheless, no one can match the bliss. You're sitting there and just, wow. Oh. People think, they think, you're a monk now, you don't have a wife or a girlfriend. You are doing it tough, Ajahn Brahm. No way. I'm having so much more fun. I was fortunate in those days, in the 60s and 70s, some of the ways that young people behaved, were such that I did have a long-term partner for about 6 months, had a very good sexual relationship. Please don't criticize me for saying this, I'm being truthful. But then when you started getting into deep meditation, it was just there's no comparison. Meditation was so much more happy, so much more joyful. That was actually the last relationship I had. And sometimes, honestly, I feel a bit of guilt towards her. I didn't know why. but I wasn't so interested in her anymore. When you have that meditation experience, it's so much more powerful. And even once, over in Bodhinyana, quite a few years ago now, there's this guy who was a heroin addict. And he came, we did have space in those days, a long time ago, and he said, can I please just have a space, a room to stay in? I want to try cold turkey. In other words, he had some medication just to get the worst of the symptoms of his heroin addiction alleviated. But can I please try just to stay in a place no one knows I'm here, so that I can wean myself off the addiction to heroin? And he told me what it's like. He said he only had one shot of heroin, and here's one of the people, just one shot is enough to really addict you. And he said he'd been trying so many times to get off that addiction. Can you please give him a chance? And then, of course, we did give him a chance for a few weeks, and he was doing quite well. And I do remember one time he came, I don't know why it's always they run towards me, and he said, Ajahn Brahm, I need to tell you this. I did get a deep meditation, and it was the first time I know you've said this before, the deep meditations are pleasure better than sexual orgasm, but this was a pleasure better than heroin. And he said, I never thought I'd ever be able to say that. And that was from a heroin addict. This is a type of joy and happiness you will experience if you get into these deep meditations. Unfortunately, he told me what it was like. It's like having to say no 1,000 times a day. You just say yes once, and you're back on it again. He was not a bad person. It was just that addiction was taking over his life. So that's one of the reasons. Not everybody experiences that, but some people do. One dose, and you're addicted for life, and it's almost impossible to get off. But one thing which we had from that experience, he was just saying that the bliss of heroin, the pleasure of it, is better than orgasm. But the pleasures of deep meditation exceed all of them. That's the sort of happiness I'm talking about. Is it dangerous? Can you get addicted to the pleasures of jhana? Answer, yes. What happens if you get addicted to those pleasures of jhana? There's 4 possibilities. Only 4, not 5. And the 4 effects of getting addicted to jhanas. Number 1 is called stream winning. Number 2 is called once returning. Number 3 is non-returning. And number 4 is full enlightenment. It's all pretty good. And that's in the Pasādika Sutta of the Digha Nikaya. That's why sometimes if I do any suttas, I like reading that out. I don't make it up. It's a pretty safe thing to do. But in particular, I've said this before, one of the biggest real dangers of getting into deep meditation, you lose your hair. You can always wear a wig. Stillness is important. I didn't finish the question. What's the difference between stillness and ignorance? Stillness is the cause for ignorance disappearing. Through stillness, you get wisdom. For those of you who have been learning Buddhism in long enough time, stillness is the best translation you can find of the word samadhi. Samadhi does not mean concentration, This is where you learn samadhi here, and this is not a concentration camp. I could get that joke out of the way. There was just a poor translation of Professor Rice Davids. He was just learning just Buddhism and how it should be translated. His mindfulness for sati, that was brilliant. But his translation of samadhi as concentration is just really off. It means stillness. Imagine what stillness is like. Your mind is not dead. It's poised. So poised. Number one, if you are in a class and you're very still, you remember what the teacher said. Somebody's told me this recently, and I said, yes, of course. You remember what the teacher said when they said it. It doesn't go from your memory. Stillness enhances your memory hugely. I still remember that clump of bamboo, what it looked like, where it was. And that was, well, how long ago was that? 55 years ago or something? So it's not ignorance, as both of them might be the same at look and act. Right? They're not the same at all, the stillness and the ignorance. People are ignorant and they keep thinking too much. They move around too much. They go trying to find happiness somewhere. Instead of finding happiness somewhere, you just sit here. And the happiness comes to you. Big time. So stillness is basically what we teach here. Thank you for those good questions. I can't see the clock, so who cares? I think actually the clock has gone still. Dear Ajahn, how to deal with restlessness? Easy. It's one of the big problems people have. When you're restless, you're trying to stop going somewhere or thinking something. You've got some thought process going through your mind, and you try and stop it. Leave it alone. Don't try and stop it. Go with it. Don't try and control it. It's like you're on a horse and the horse is galloping all over the place. Sit on top of the horse, see where it goes. But don't try and control. And after a while, the horse stops. It's the nature of the horse. But you don't try and control it, you're kind to it. Sometimes, please excuse me for some of these stories, because I'm going to tell you another sexual story. Can I? And I'm doing this for the sense of honesty, not to try and excite myself or yourselves. My 6th rains retreat, I found a beautiful monastery in the north of Thailand to have a nice 3 months by myself. No one else was there. And one of the reasons I asked, how come no other monks here? And the lay people said it's because this place is too quiet for them. Too peaceful. I couldn't understand that. I thought that's where monks love to be. Peaceful places. So I had the monastery all to myself. It's up in the mountains above. It's actually almost an ideal monastery for someone like me. It was in the middle, up in the mountains, the middle of a tea plantation. That time it was Raming's tea. So, an English monk, I could have as much free tea as I could possibly drink. It was like and they had. Okay, I'm just really remembering all the beautiful things about this monastery. It had this wonderful deep cave. And when it was hot, I would go in that cave after lunch, only 1 meal a day, and I'd stay in there till the afternoon. So quiet, so peaceful. but there were lots of bats in the cave. They were peaceful. But the bats would fly out every evening and they would get their food and they'd fly back again into the cave in the morning. And right in the front of the entrance to the cave, there was a papaya tree. And that papaya tree, I'd see it as I went into the cave and came back out again. That was the best fertilized papaya tree in the world. And when you saw papaya growing, I couldn't take it. I know my monastic rules. But I would say to one of the lay people, I'd take him over there and say, "Hey, look at that papaya, it's almost right." They knew what I meant and they'd offer it to me that morning for the meal. You eat the whole papaya, big papaya. It was the most delicious and sweet papaya I've ever, nothing has ever matched that in my whole life. Why? You know that story which I keep giving you about why was that papaya so delicious? Because all of that bat poo, which fertilized it day and night. And that's why I say if ever you tread in the dog poo, don't scrape it off your feet. Take it to your garden and scrape it off under the mango tree or papaya tree or whatever tree there you like. That's where I got that story from. So I had beautiful food, really quiet. There was a traffic problem. The traffic problem, one car a week. That's all you'd ever see. You'd have to be looking at the right place at the right time. No other traffic up there. But it's a perfect place. But then one day, I started getting restless. You don't have to have a noisy place to get restless. I started getting restless, and then more restless. I tried to stop it. I don't want to be restless. You can't get a better monastery in the world than this. And then my restlessness turned, at this time, it was my 6th range retreat, I was only 29. Started thinking to some of my old girlfriends, I wonder if she's still available. Oh, shut up, Ajahn Brahm. I'm a monk, I like being a monk. But she was nice. No, shut up. I wanted to be a monk. But I started thinking of all the old people who might still be available. That was my restlessness. And I was ashamed of that. But the shame was not enough to stop it. So it got worse and worse. I was trying to watch my breath. Watch the breath go in, watch the breath go out. But she was really nice. Shut up. I'm being as honest as I can. So one day it got so bad, there was no other monk there to talk to. So I bowed in front of the Buddha statue and I asked for help. That's what I said, help. I was getting really, really crazy with all these thoughts. And then the idea came into my mind to do a deal. That's how you were trained. So my deal was I would watch my breath most of the day. But from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. every afternoon, I would go out to my hut, lean comfortably against the wall, stretch out my legs, and I would allow any thought at all, weird thoughts, sexual thoughts, old girlfriends, whatever, I would not stop any of them. 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., please excuse me, was my sexy time. I can say this now because I'm so confident what happened next. So I went to my room, leant against the wall, put my feet out. Okay, whatever you want to think about, you can. And for the whole hour, I was aware of every breath without missing one. The next day too. It's not what I expected, but the amount of insight I got from that was huge. because I was trying to control my mind, it was rebelling against me. My mind was much stronger than I was. As soon as I let go, really let go, my mind was so peaceful. No effort at all was needed. It was every breath beautifully going in and going out. I'm not exaggerating. Those are the sorts of experiences which change much of the way I understood my mind and how meditation works. Because you control freaks, you don't find peace. Once you know how to make peace, be kind, be gentle. Make peace, be kind, be gentle. Actually, the part is not making peace, it's like letting go, renouncing. Renounce, make peace, be gentle. It's the second factor of the Eightfold Path, with a pretty accurate translation. Let go, renounce, make peace. Be kind and be gentle. That gentility. Are you supposed to be fighters in Buddhism? Come on, sit up straight. Come on, just you watch that mind. Watch every breath. Don't let one breath disappear. And that's called anapanasati. You have an alternative. Please give it a try. Let go. Be so gentle. Be a friend to your mind. Don't be a controller. I don't know. Some of my friends, like even Bernard, but I have many other friends that have come to visit me, come to say hello. One of the guys still remains a friend. He was the head actuary of Europe. Actuary is not like an accountant. It's a guy who works out all the probabilities of accidents for the insurance companies. And we were at college together, and when I first saw him, we arranged to meet in London. I greeted him, "Hi, Flash, how are you doing?" He said, "Ajahn Brahm, don't call me that name." His first name was Harry, or Harold Clark. But because he was a friend, that we had a party in my rooms in Emmanuel one evening. He needed to go to the toilet. He went to the toilet. When he came out of the toilet, he wasn't sort of keeping 5 precepts. And so he was a bit drunk, and he forgot to put on his trousers when he came out. That's where he got the nickname Flash. It's just, we're just young people just having fun together. And so he became known as Flash Harry. It was like a term of kindness, we thought. Anyway, he said, "But look, now, this is my position right now. This is where I work. If you go around saying Flash Harry and the word gets around, I'll lose my job." We were such good friends. We started talking, and we never stopped for about 3 or 4 hours. I couldn't really understand that. Even my own brother, maybe half an hour and I'm bored. But when you have people you trust, kind to, then you're not afraid, you don't try and control, you enjoy being with them. That's how I meditate on my breath. My breath is a good old friend. So I start looking, "Hi breath, how you been?" "Oh, nice to see you again, how are you?" And we hang out together. I don't control and force my attention to be with my breath. You just recognize, "My breath, over there, hi. What have you been up to? What have you been doing?" We like each other because of that kindness and gentleness. And so sometimes it's hard to be restless at all. You enjoy being with your breathing. You don't force it. I wish the teachers I had taught me about that when I was young. How to watch your breath and have a wonderful time. With kindness. So anyway, that's what stillness is. I enjoy meditating for a while, then I get restless. If I stay with that, then the mind tends to switch off into dullness. Oh no, just mind if you want to be dull, fine. Mind if you want to be restless, fine. I'm not going to control you. You're my friend. Try that. And you'll find your mind will not want to be restless. It's like you meet a really good friend for the first time. You can't believe that somebody just allows you to be natural. And you don't want to be natural anymore. You don't want to be restless anymore. You don't want to be dull. You're having a great time with the person who's kind to you. Give that a try. See what happens. Okay. What time am I supposed to finish?
9 o'clock.
Okay. Oh, there's still another 7 minutes. Another few questions. Please, I apologize if I don't answer many questions of an evening, but I want to make sure those questions are answered deeply. Are you okay with that? Can you please explain the difference between anatta and sunyata? Oh, that's an easy one. Anatta means there's no... it's like a sunyata, but it's deeper than a sunyata. Well, they're all connected. Sunyata means like emptiness, nothing there. So you look and look and look. The deeper you go in meditation, the more things disappear. So you're sitting there and all of your 5 senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, disappear. You've just got your mind left. You may have some thoughts, but then they soon stop. They vanish. What are you aware of? Very, very little. And there's a type of bliss for the first jhana, and it's just the mind is just celebrating, enjoying the fact those 5 senses aren't burdening you anymore. It's like 5 big suitcases have been left behind. Then you may have past and future. And you've heard that simile which I created about imagine carrying 2 heavy suitcases. One has got all your past in it, all your memories, all your traumas as well, and all your joys as well in that suitcase in your left hand. The right hand has got all your fears about what might happen next. You're carrying these 2 heavy suitcases, and someone says, just lower them down. And as you lower them down onto the ground, all the burden goes. The past, the future. You haven't totally abandoned them, they're down there. You can pick them up again if you feel you need to, but you put them down for a little while. And you're standing in this magic place between them, called the present moment. You can see the both of them. Sometimes you wish someone to steal them, so you don't have to take them up anymore. But that's a bit much at the beginning. But you feel what it's like to have no burdens. Is that pleasant? You bet it is. That's why the stillness is a beautiful joy a person can enjoy. That's sunyata, things are disappearing. And then, it's a bit much to talk to you about, but nevertheless, here it comes. The emptiness, then the one thing which is left inside of you is the 6th sense, the knowing. Then that's the 6th sense, you know things, the mind's action, that tends to now disappear. your mind turns off. And that's where, in these deep meditations, you go to places called the cessation of perception and feeling. Even that disappears. Sunyata. Nothing left. Anatta, it means pretty much the same, but anatta has the extra aspect to it of doing, controlling, being the one in charge. Anatta, not me, not mine, not a self. And I like the second part of that, not mine. What do you own? I don't own my body. Sometimes I go to bed at night, I want to go to sleep, and it wants to meditate instead. Sometimes I meditate and I want to go to sleep. Sometimes people offer me delicious food and I'm not hungry. Sometimes I'm really hungry, but it's the afternoon and I can't eat. I'm out of control. Isn't it wonderful, anatta, to realize even my physical health? I don't know how many people say, Ajahn Brahm, don't eat so much sugar, don't eat condensed milk, don't eat... So don't try and control me, I don't control myself. I've been teaching enough Dharma, I think I've done my duty. If I die tonight, it's wonderful. You've had all the teachings already, haven't you? You know one nice thing, if ever I do get sick, I don't ask for help. That's what happened recently. Actually not recently, some time ago. When I had food poisoning. Did I tell that story? Yes. You should have gone to hospital. But I decided, no, I'm not going to go to hospital. I'm just going to meditate and let it go. And it went by itself. So much stuff like that can happen so naturally, so peacefully. So the chances are I'm going to live a long life. But if I do die, you just find out that I don't come out for the morning meditation. You afraid of that? Well, I'm not. Can you please explain the difference between... Oh, that's an anatta. It means you're not in control. Isn't that beautiful? Look, I remember just years ago, I had a teaching tour over in Indonesia. And I went to the airport, I had my ticket, visa and everything okay, organised. When I got there, there's a big sign up there, the Garuda flight to Indonesia was cancelled. It wasn't delayed, it was cancelled. And I saw so many other people who arrived before me, and they were at the counter, the Garuda counter, banging their fist on the door. You can't do this to us, we've got some business to do in Indonesia, you've got to take us today. It doesn't matter how hard they banged on the table, they wanted to make the airline come. I soon worked out what the problem was. Garuda is a mythical bird. And I was right in the middle of the bird flu crisis. And I said, Garuda's a bird, it's got bird flu, that's why it can't fly today. And so fortunately somebody lent me their phone and I just called up the host and said, look, there's no flight today, Garuda's got bird flu, I'll try and come tomorrow. And they said, thank you so much, they'll say that was a good excuse, original. So that's anatta. You make all the best possible arrangements and it doesn't work out. Has that ever happened to you? A lot of the time you give up. When you give up, you find you can get a seat on that aircraft and go see your favourite band in Singapore. In Hong Kong. Okay. So it all works out in the end. And anatta is really good. So why is anatta emphasized in Theravada and sunyata emphasized in Mahayana? I don't know. I just emphasize both of them. Is that good? Emptiness. Can I just do that last really deep teaching? It'll be the last of the evening, because I might die tonight. Of course I might. Unlikely, but one of these days. So anyway, this is when Ajahn Chah started getting sick. The monks over in Wat Nanachar had this beautiful idea, let's build him a sauna. They had a beautiful idea building him a sauna. It wasn't as compassionate as you might think, because if they built a sauna for Ajahn Chah, they had a sauna for themselves. A good excuse to get themselves a sauna. Number two, that if they built the sauna and it worked, then Ajahn Chah would come once a week for his sauna. And he'd also come and give a talk for us. And that was the best part of this arrangement. So we finished the sauna, and Ajahn Chah would come once a week for his sauna, but beforehand he'd give us a Dhamma talk. And I say this with the greatest respect to Ajahn Chah. Most of the time his talks were brilliant, but sometimes the talks were really boring. Sometimes it hit the spot, and sometimes you miss it. So you never knew whether his talk was going to be really excellent or just average. But this one evening, he came for his sauna, and his talk was absolutely amazing. He really hit the spot. And there was lots of other monks to help Ajahn Chah with the sauna. I would often just go and help him where I could. But so I went round the back of the hall in Wat Bananachart to a quiet spot, sat on the concrete and just meditated for a couple of hours. Beautiful meditation. I really enjoyed it. And when I came out of the meditation, the first thought which came up was, maybe there's still time to do some sort of service for Ajahn Chah. So I got up and walked. I was still blissed out to the sauna. And then halfway on that trip to the sauna, you saw Ajahn Chah walking in the opposite direction with his Thai attendant. We were going to cross on the path. As we got close, I went to move aside to make the room for Ajahn Chah to pass. But he stopped and looked at me. He saw I'd just come out of a beautiful meditation. So he decided to try and enlighten me. He looked at me. I don't know if I'm being as honest and truthful as I possibly can. He read my mind. And my feeling was I was aware enough, super aware, you could actually feel him inside your brain, if that makes any sense to you. And for once I gave him total free access. Now I just come out of a deep meditation. It was probably one of the cleanest mind states I'd had for weeks. Yeah, come and have a look. So I felt him. That's the only way I can say it. Look inside my mind. And then he came out. He looked at me. And then he said, with kindness, but with a lot of fierceness as well, Brahmavamso. Why? So he gave me that fierceness, but the kindness. You can avoid the question, why? You know what I answered? I don't know. I was just, still reasonably young. And whenever you say something stupid to someone like an Ajahn Chah, he burst out laughing. He thought that was so funny. I'm supposed to be a smart monk, educated at Cambridge, good meditation, but so dumb sometimes. I don't know. And he stopped laughing. He looked at me again. Brahma Wangsa, I'll tell you the answer. Oh, sorry, it's 9. Oh, sorry. We'll continue this story tomorrow. I'll tell you the answer, he said. And I too was really interested. This was Ajahn Chah, maybe the last year of his life. He's going to, first of all, the question, why? A deep question. And he's going to give me the answer. If anyone asks you this question in the future, this is the right answer. And he said, Mai mi arai. You're Thai, you know what that means. Mai mi arai. There's nothing. There's nothing. He repeated that, so he said it twice. There's nothing. Then he looked at me with really a lot of compassion. Do you understand? And I said, yes. And he looked at me again and said, no, you don't. And he walked off. Well, I had so much compassion for that. He asked me a very deep question. I just told you the answer. Why? There's nothing. Sunyata. Anatta. Together. He was a Theravada forest monk. We share teachings. The teachings, when we understand them, never separate us. Different angles on the same thing. Do you understand? No, you don't. But anyway, thank you for listening. And good night to you all. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. How many questions did I get? Oh my goodness. Way more questions answered. No, not many questions answered. Okay, never mind. How many questions did I answer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6 questions answered. Shall we carry on till midnight? No. Okay. Who's looking after the questions? These ones can be put back on the desk. These ones have been answered. Okay, I'll throw these ones away.
Yep.
Ooh.